Hi everyone, and thanks for checking out my channel. I'm going to have a look at a few commodities midweek after 3 days of price action and see where we are and how we might actually move going forward for the next coming days. Starting with Wti Crude Oil. So I'm watching that trend line here that went from previous tops quite far away, which I think will actually converge quite nicely with the $35 level. So we've seen, as expected, that the end of the June contract didn't end in anything on the downside. Instead, the price did rally further up and broke even now safely above 32. So that was positive for crude oil, and I now looking at that rising channel here. So today broke that 32 level comfortably. Then we got some rejection on top of the channel. Some would be expecting for the coming day or two some downside pressure here. So either coming down there or moving a little bit higher and trying another move at 34, and then from that limit here we would see some move further up around 24 with some extension potentially at 35, and from here I will be looking on the 4-hour chart. So I would coincident with that trend line to some divergence, something like this, with the price moving there, establishing a new higher high, but unable to follow on the RSI, which is very likely since the previous stop was at 86. We would need a massive momentum to break that out, break that higher, and I doubt it will actually happen in such a small move. So either we go and top the price a bit higher to get there, and then you won't get that divergence. But if we do, I think it would be a nice short entry point to go back to the 29.30 zone, and filling that gap we're having here in a move that would be something like this. So that would be a nice short, positioning the stop loss, of course, inside the gap somewhere, maybe 36, just to be safe. But it would be a high risk reward trade, so definitely looking for this in the coming days. Natural gas, there's been a lot of action again since we touched that the trend line, the RSI trend line again on that point here. So the price did move up and failed to break above 185. I believe it was on the 4 hours. Yeah, he did actually manage to break above the 200 MA, but the price is back down below 180. So at this point, the scenario that I would actually see happening is probably a continuation of the move down for new touch on the trend line. So target will be 163, and then when the contango, the pressure from the rollover will be gone, we might start seeing and move back up to 2.10, hopefully that could trigger some further move on the upside, but definitely more selling pressure to come until the expiry of the June contract. That's for next week. The spread is reducing somehow. I think between June and July we're sitting at 7% now, which is a bit reassuring in terms of having the June contract crashing or selling off hardly, but still it will put some selling pressure. So not expecting any break above 183, 185, but rather some revisit of that trend line down at 160, 163. Looking at gold, interesting move as well. Regardless what the market is doing, we're still moving with that trend line pressing against the 1780, which I think is extremely likely to break out in the coming 2 weeks probably. So we will see building pressure there and potentially break above that level for new tests higher. The next one will be sitting at 1,900 for that move. So yes, that will be interesting to see if that happens. Of course, if it does break below that trend line again, we might go down and revisit the 170, potentially even pushing to 160. But in the current environment, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So yes. And finally, having a look at WIT as well, because I had a long position on this and got really close to trigger stop loss until today when we had that significant move to the upside, potentially saving that trend line and moving back in. So we had on that move down some divergence between these 2 points, so that's on the daily. So these are significant to watch on that kind of double bottom. So that could validate a double bottom here and potentially continuation of the move to the upside and go for a new test of the 580. That's also a very important level, because if it does break, it does open the door for a much higher move toward potentially some very high level here. So yeah, it could happen that way, and of course we could have something like this where we are continuing to pressurize against the trend line and add pressure there. So we, in the coming days, watching that trend line very carefully. If it does break above 520 and also the 200 MA on daily, then we are very likely to go and revisit 580 and potentially breaking out. That will depend, of course, of various things, but yes, that's potentially one trade that could work quite well. Yeah, that's all for today. If you have any market or anything you'd like me to have a look at, just write in the comments and I'll have a look at it. Even if it's just purely technical, I might still just spend a bit of time and see what's going on this market. Might give some trade ideas. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.